Hello everyone, welcome back to the Jug Show! So, we are going to continue our series of talking about the new era of X-Men from the Ashes. So, today we're going to focus on X-Factor and X-Force. So the reason why I'm actually picking these two to go together is because they're two very ends of the spectrum. One is surprisingly good. I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. The other, though, is more a bit on the side of the disappointing. It's what people were afraid of when the era rolled around. It's from Krakoa to this one. So, starting with that, we're going to talk with X-Force. The problem with X-Force is that it has an interesting premise that the governments are now scrambling to get mutants on their side and to militarize them. They're taking advantage of someone else's bad situation. What sounds more government than that? So it actually makes sense that they would actually do something. The problem is it reads a bit too much like a reality show. I get the point that's trying to be made here, but I feel like it could be made a lot better. The first issue, the whole death, the death of the entire team or their fates left ambiguous, I felt was very unnecessary. It was 100% shock factor, and it was probably also meant because of the fact that mutants lost the resurrection protocol when Krakoa went away. Which, honestly, I think could have been done a lot better. Because, a lot of things I've actually wanted to talk about is the resurrection protocols. And how it would affect people that they don't have them anymore. Because I really feel like we never actually expanded upon the resurrection protocols as enough during the actual Krakoan era. And I found that very unfortunate. We could have given the five maybe their own book or a little bit of focus. Maybe their own opinions on what they're actually doing. Or even developing their opinions. We never really got much when it came to Tempest. She was just really there. Whereas, everyone else was all, yeah, I'm part of the five. I'm so great. They're so great. How about that? But Tempa really didn't really have much better. She didn't really do much during the tenure. Her opinion was never really voiced. So I found that actually rather irritating. So when we get to this book, a lot of the things that they do really doesn't, it doesn't hit. It often misses. The premises are interesting. The concepts that are brought in are interesting. But its execution's lacking a lot. So, for starters, I brought up, the deaths of all the original team members that were selected, except for Angel, as far as we know. There are others that could actually still be alive. So the fact that was for shock factor, and even a character that had such a good development during the Krakoan era, like Feral, especially the fact that Feral was even on the cover, it was it felt very unneeded. But then we go to our new team, the actual team that we're going to be focusing on. It's felt very randomly put together. And I know this is part of the story. None of them really want to be there. But, yeah, I don't really feel like these characters are being done justice after some of the development they've had in recent years. For example, Frenzy. Frenzy had great development under Al Ewing during the tenure of Sword and X-Men Red, really making her, really pushing her as the diplomat of Earth to the other planets. So now that she's pretty much part of a propaganda group, we don't even know why she's there, why she chose to actually be a part of this team. Aside from maybe, the opportunity to tell everyone else they're idiots. That's really all she's really been doing. She's clearly Havoc's right hand, but, she hasn't really had much of a role on the team, aside from that. And then you got Cecilia Reyes, a mutant with a lot of history, with the X-Men, a lot of good history, who was mainly the scientist and doctor, who I think was incredibly underutilized during the Krakoan era. And I really don't think this book is much of an improvement for her station. And because of that, and I mean that because she gets a bit of focus during the latest issue that came out a few weeks back, where they went down and we learned why she's on the team. She's escaping a breakup. But then they find out that the person that broke up with her is on this particular mission. And I've never seen this guy before. I've never heard of this guy. Has anybody heard of this guy? Like a teleporter or something? I don't know. And then they just get back together because of, like, he kept apart because he didn't want to get hurt. And we've all heard that one before. That's not a reason to break up with somebody. Especially someone that's associated with superheroes. It's also not a reason to get back together. The guy didn't trust her. Like, what the hell happened? It felt very unnecessary. And honestly, I also really don't like how they're treating Pyro. Honestly, this is a thing for me, because, like, I feel like a lot of Australian characters are just there to be a joke in a lot of American media. And even during the Krakoan era, I felt like that was what the whole thing was with Pyro. I felt like Duggan wasn't taking him seriously. I don't think anybody took him seriously. Even at the end, where they're saying he's going to go do some writing and all that again, when he's going to go be an author again, it was just like a side story, and it really feel like it didn't actually take anything that he does seriously. Like, you even had that situation on Cole when we're in his head, and he was so shallow. He just wanted the fast car, he wanted the hot girl, and I'm just like, what the hell do Americans actually think of Australians? Because I get annoyed pretty much every time. This is one of the reasons why in the upcoming weeks I'm going to bring up an animated series that I really want to talk about, because of how well Australians were actually depicted. Like, some real, like, it's a great show. I'm looking forward for the next season, and I don't know if you guys know it, but we're going to talk about the series called Ark. If you know the game, it's the one with the dinosaurs, and, like, it's a survival game, and they have an animated series. I'm looking forward to talking about it. But until then, we're going to get back onto this. So, continuing off, then there's Granny Smite. Why do we have Granny Smite? Who is Granny Smite? What's the point of having Granny Smite there? I get she's immortal, but I don't. Is it just because of the old lady jokes? If it's just for the old lady jokes, I get it. But yeah, sure, it's funny. It feels like a bit of a joke. It's just that, like, if we take the premise seriously, like, what actually happens in these situations, people that want to use minorities as, like, a propaganda piece, so the government or companies and corporations can make them look like they're inclusive, or they're trying to benefit everyone, when they're just trying to either line their own pockets or, like, just make themselves look good in some ways, it's actually an incredibly serious problem. And I really feel like we're not having that taken seriously. Because then we even have the big plot line that's behind the scenes of the actual thing between Havoc and Lorna. Now, honestly, if I was in charge, if I had any say in it, I feel like Lorna would probably be better off, instead of actually talking in the X-Men, would probably be more in the Scarlet Witch books or around that, so she could spend more time with Pietro. Or hell, even bring Pietro into the book, because I felt like her dynamic with Pietro is actually really good. So having her just, like, being the antagonist to Havoc, because she's with this mutant underground that was founded by this mutant no one's ever heard of, and run by this dog guy who honestly I'm just not feeling. I'm not feeling any of these guys. I don't really take any of these guys seriously. I'm not taking anything in this book seriously, and I really feel like I should take it seriously, but I can't. So it's really not the best example of from the Ashes era, because it feels like all forms of conflict are forced. Its premise, while good, is really falling flat, and a lot of it just reads like some bad reality show. And the really frustrating part is that it has everything it needs to be a good book. X-Term is actually very fascinating. The choice of Darkstar, also good, because of the fact that Darkstar has never been associated with Krakoa, so her running her own version of X-Force or a mutant military deal is actually very interesting. So the reason why I keep reading this book is, honestly, I find it at least a little funny. Like, it's so bad it's funny, and plus the artwork is actually pretty good. like the artists they bring on there, it's actually really good artwork. Really, like I don't even know how to describe it, but it's very colorful. It's very clean. And when they did those giant spiders in that issue, I actually had to scratch around myself. God damn, those are done way too well. Oh, okay, maybe that should be a bad thing. Oh, but compliments to the artist. He did a very good job of freaking spiders. I know I'm Australian, but Jesus Christ, even we had problems with spiders. Anyway, moving on. We're going to go on to the what's good. X-Force. It was a massive shock. I was at how much I enjoyed it. Like, one of the reasons I think I'm enjoying it so much is because after 4 years of Ben Percy writing both the X-Force and Wolverine, it feels like such a breath of fresh air. It feels like we've needed a new perspective. We've needed this new ideas on X-Force, and they're going way out there. Because like we're going multi-dimensional, we're talking forms of magic here. We're doing things that like the premise of X-Force is still the mutant team or the mutant superhero team that don't receive thanks. It doesn't have its it doesn't feel like a clandestine team like X-Force usually is. X-Force is usually like the Black Ops of the X-Men and the mutant world. This doesn't feel like Black Ops. This feels like it's the team that's trying to end threats before they happen. But that doesn't actually go into clandestine. That's just preemptive. And even with this sense of preemptiveness, like when it comes to X-Force, it's usually about military targets. It's usually about going after big names and just doing things that normally they wouldn't do, like X-Men wouldn't do. They're the ones that do the bad things, so the X-Men don't have to do the bad things. We're not really getting much of that, and after Ben Percy's, I think that's good. I mean, Evil Beast, Wolverine, ping-ponging his opinions of Krakoa, saying it's good, but then it's bad, and it's good again, but it's bad again. And a big problem with Percy's run, you could really notice that like he wanted to get to his ending, but because of the continuations, the redoings, and all these things that they did with the Krakoan era, he had to stretch out his story. He had to come up with new ideas, or probably on the spot, and he even ended up making a joke about his Russia storyline that they waited too long. So now we have a new writer. We have Jeffrey Thorne. He's doing his own story now. He's probably more on his own timeline as much as he can in this kind of in Marvel publication. And he's actually doing a pretty good job. I'm really enjoying what he's doing. He even just got Deadpool off, just did it as a one-off, just in the first issue. Like, he probably doesn't want to use Deadpool, but he felt like he had to use Deadpool at one stage because Deadpool's somehow a staple of X-Force. So he just did it a full-on one and done, and I respect that. And I'm really enjoying how he's using the characters. Like, we have Forge, and he's doing a bit of a techno mystical type of thing going here, and he's trying to be in control, but he's not in control. He's really at the whims of his own technology, and that is a very Forged thing. He's always had problems with, like, if he sees a problem, he's going to try and solve the problem, but he doesn't realize that he doesn't think his solutions can cause more problems. That's how he ended up accidentally depowering Storm. And he's always been like that. He's tried to come up with solutions, but he doesn't know how to handle like a sense of improvisation. He doesn't understand how things can happen badly. In fact, even if you actually even look at, you can actually kind of predict what could have gone wrong with his City of Tomorrow concept. Early on in the Krakoan era, it was shown that the Krakoan gateways and seeds could actually kill local flora. And by introducing Krakoan plant life into biomes that aren't Krakoan ecosystems, essentially he would be introducing feral plant life to every populated city, every populated area on the planet, which could have spread and honestly killed a lot of the flora and fauna and destroyed ecosystems. but he doesn't see that. He sees he sees the solution to energy problems and food and all that. He's not seeing the downside. He can't see the downside. He just sees a solution, a problem and a solution. And part of me wonders if that was always going to be a plan with it. It's what's also interesting that his counter, like on team books, you always have the main guy and you have the person that calls them out on their crap, and that's Sage. And Sage did that quite a bit in the last run. Calling out Beast, trying to be in control of the team. And this is actually a very interesting take on the character. She's emotional, yet not emotional. She's very logical, and the logic is really guiding her. Even in an emotional... I've actually talked with some people, and they're saying that she's autistically coded or is autistic. I won't lie, I haven't actually had as much exposure to talking to people that were on the spectrums. I myself am ADHD, but I actually don't 100% understand these type of things when it comes to the autistic spectrum. But I do get the idea that they can't actually process or voice emotions the same way. They have to do it through their own methods. They're kind of like their own methods, their own forms of communication. And you can really see that with Sage here, that she's using her logic, she's using her ways of understanding and analyzing the world and trying to get that out there. And she's very high strung these days. She's gone through hell after what happened with Krakoa. She's trying to get the sense of logic. She's trying to get a sense of balance. And she's really realizing that Forge is a threat to that. He's doing things that completely out of turn for her. So she's really trying to keep him on track. And I'm really loving that. What I'm also really loving is the how expansive this book is. Like, this book, when it comes to expansion of where we can go and what we can do, is probably it's one of the bigger ones. I mean, we have Phoenix, and while I did say I'm not exactly a fan of the Phoenix, I can see that we're going places there. That's one of the better parts of it, but I'm still not interested in the book. But we're also got Storm, and she's probably much going to be, and given what Marewa has been saying, what we're seeing, she can probably end up anywhere, but in almost within reason. Here, in X-Force, this place is going multi-dimensional. We're going all over the planet. There's probably nowhere we won't go, and I'm really here for that. Because we even meet these multiversal these other dimensional Avengers that look like an Egyptian motif, or like areas around Africa motif. And I thought that was really cool. And I really thought it was funny that this Storm is pissed off at Forge. It's like, he can't get a break. No matter which Storm, he's going to piss off Storm. And he didn't even do anything. It's her Forge that pissed her off. So Jeffrey Thorne does have a bit of a sense of humor when it comes to that, and I'm loving it. And I won't lie, Jeffrey Thorne, I get the feeling, might actually be a bit of a geek. And I mean that because he hit me with the geek phrase. And I mean that because my absolute favorite page is this page here. And the reason why is because he's doing things... Okay, so I don't think I've mentioned this before, so if you don't know, I'm a huge Fantastic Four fan. So, and it's not just the fact he's bringing up the Baxter building here that got me excited. It's the fact he's bringing up the fact they have a multi-dimensional gateway. And I think people thought they were talking about the portal to the negative zone. I think he meant the Forever Gate. What was developed in the Slot era of the Fantastic Four, and it was said to be destroyed because they could figure out how to destroy it. Because they thought it was too dangerous. But the fact is, they told Valeria to do that. There's a problem with that. One, it's her device, and she really likes it. So I don't think she would have. And two, we're talking Reed's daughter here. Reed did that. There was that other multi-dimensional portal that he was supposed to destroy, but he couldn't bring himself to. We're talking about his little girl. There's no way she did it. So Jeffrey here I feel like he confirmed my theory that Valeria never destroyed it. and Sage knows they still have the Forever Gate. I'm here for that. I'm really hoping that. I'm hoping that maybe Jeffrey has some idea with Ryan North that maybe they're going to get a crossover, or maybe the kids are going to show up, at least Valeria. Oh, Valeria and Sage teaming up. Oh man, I am so here for that. I've even come up with ideas, like some funny ideas, like Valeria lecturing Forge on some of his ideas and like ways of doing things, because he can only see the problem and solution. He doesn't see how he can cause problems. and and the funny thing is, Reed does. Like, a lot of people think that Reed probably wouldn't, like he does the same thing as Forge, but no, Reed actually considers consequences. He considers what can end up being dangerous to people. He actually, in fact, while Forge was building the mutant canceling device, Reed was making a bunch of senators look like idiots by, when they commissioned him a mutant detecting device, he pointed out that he could actually make anyone seem like a mutant, that they could deviate what's defined as normal. So the idea of Jeffrey Thorne maybe teaming up with Ryan North would be epic, especially with this X-Force book. I'm loving it. And another reason why I love this page so much, because not only is he's also connecting it to the Latveria one, because at the end, the Dan Slott's Fantastic Four, he reveals that Doom also has a Forever Gate, or he's going to build a Forever Gate. Nothing was ever worked off that, but it was the very end. I mean, we'll get to something out of that later, but so I really feel like Jeffrey's talking about the Forever Gates here, and I really think that's cool. I'm really hoping that's what he's talking about, and if he is talking about it, freaking hats off to Jeffrey Thorne here. Like, the guy from his X-Force, the guy's already leveling up on my favorite. Like, he's now on my radar. I want to read some more stuff by Jeffrey Thorne, especially for this part right here. This part, I don't know if anyone else here knows about this. If you know about it, I love you. You're my level of geek. Like, especially if you've seen all the episodes, because he brought in the bloody Stargate, the actual Stargate from Stargate SG-1. He has brought Stargate to the Marvel Universe. I was rolling on the floor. I was doing backflips. It was so good. It was so funny. I love Stargate so much. I grew up on Stargate. I started watching it like when I was 6 or 7. It was a big family pastime in my house. We would all gather around the TV and put on Stargate, see what episode's on. And not only do we have the Stargate, but he's riffing on the fact there was a Russian Stargate. A big deal in the series of Stargate SG-1 is that the Russians get a Stargate. They find a Stargate. They open up their own base to use the Stargate. If you don't know what the Stargate is, it travels to other planets by connecting to another Stargate. For crying out loud, if you haven't ever watched Stargate, watch freaking Stargate. Then watch Stargate Atlantis. And I'm very recommending that one if you're a fan of Jason Momoa, because that's really where he got big. Oh my god, I love that series so much. I am just rambling. Okay, yeah, Jeffrey Thorne. Oh man, I might have to say he's my favorite writer just for doing that. Oh man, I have got to read some more Jeffrey Thorne stuff, because this guy is just great. That was fun. I love that page so much. Oh, right, and before I forget, I also want to talk about the new villain from X-Force. This could end up actually being another Fantastic Four deal. This could actually be really leading into the idea that X-Force could be going to the Fantastic Four. Or what would be really cool, we actually rebirth the title of Fantastic Force. I just honestly came up with that. Like, the Fantastic Force was a book that was coming out years ago. Oh, man. It was during the DeFalco run of the Fantastic Four. It was going on alongside it, and it was 4 characters, and they were more intense than the current Fantastic Four story. It was led by an adult Franklin Richards. It included Vibraxis, a Wakandan superhero that uses vibration. It had Hantara, Reed Richards' half-sister and Franklin's aunt, and the Inhuman Devlaw. And it was a good read. And now we have this new villain named Diablo. So, I'm not saying that it is based off him, but like, if you don't know, there's the Fantastic Four villain named Diablo. He's an alchemist. Like how we're getting with Diablo here. There are too many similarities for me to overlook. So it's not just the name. We have also got like a similar design and color motif. with the purple and the green, and as well as the head spikes type of thing. So I don't think this is just the classic make a female version of a character. Would I be complaining for was? Honestly, no, because this is actually a more interesting take on the idea. Like, I haven't really seen much coming out when it comes to Diablo, but this Diablo is actually a very interesting take, a very interesting idea and concept of like the idea of alchemy using technology to become magic or making simulations real, like how we have in this issue with they're having to battle Storm and Mystique that were supposed to be simulations, but now they're not. Like, do I think there is going to be a Fantastic Force upcoming from like a crossover with the Fantastic Four and X-Force? Honestly, probably not. But I'm not gonna say no because I don't want to say no because I think that would be really cool, and I'm really hoping so. So honestly, X-Force is a massive gem and one that was just really unexpected. Like, I see where Jeffrey's going with it, like the type of vibe he wants for it, and it does have an air of mystery. It does, and I really like where he's going. I like that he's really expanding using all these characters, like this lesser known character from the Avengers as the bad guy. And man, I just don't know how to describe it. Like I said, X Factor and X Force are two very different ends of the spectrum when it comes to different very ends of good and bad. And I really recommend X Force. And I'm really excited to see where this book goes. Okay, so yeah, let's wrap it up there. X Force, fantastic. X Factor, it has everything it needs to be good, but it's not. And I find that unfortunate. And I really hope it can manage to get better because I love it when a book you think is bad subverts expectations and just comes out of nowhere and it just improves. But definitely pick up X-Force. You got to pick up X-Force. It's fantastic. I have got to stop with the fantastic. Okay, like, am I hoping for Jeffrey Thorne for Fantastic Four or for Fantastic Force or something? Yes. I think he would be a very fun writer for it. Anyway, so next week we're talking X-Men. And by what I mean is we are taking both the adjectiveless X-Men written by Jed MacKay and we're taking the Uncanny X-Men by Gail Simone. We're really going to see what we can think up and talk about when it comes to these two. We're taking these books. And the following week, we are going to talk about, it's going to be our last one, but this is going to be our last chat for the Fall of X, because we're going to go on to other things after that. So part 4 of the Fall of Ashes discussion, we're going to talk about our villains here. We're going to talk about Mystique book, and we're going to talk about the Sentinels book. I've got a few things to say about them, and I'm really excited to get there. But first, we're going to do our X-Men, and we're going to do our Uncanny X-Men. So, I'll see you guys next week. We are going to talk X-Men next week. I hope you're excited as I am. I am really, really overstimulated right now just talking about X-Force. Oh, man, I love it. I'm going to have to go give it a reread now. Oh, boy. Okay, so I'll catch you later. Thanks for tuning in and listening, and I'll see you next week. Bye!